The next item of business is consideration of Business Motion 20568 in the name of Graham Day on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on changes to business. Any member who wishes to speak to the motion should press their request to speak button now. And I call on the Minister to move the motion.
Move, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. No member has asked to speak to the motion. Therefore, the question is that motion 20568 be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. The motion is therefore agreed. The next item of business is topical questions, and at question number 1, I call Jackie Bailey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to reports that then Health Secretary Shona Robertson U-turned on a promise to carry out an independent audit of the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital before it opened to patients.
Cabinet Secretary Neil Gray.
Presiding Officer, I again pay tribute to the patients and families at the heart of this inquiry who have already faced immense pain and trauma. I also commend the work of the inquiry team and Lord Brodie. It's vital that we allow the inquiry to deliberate and consider its findings, which we will respond to in full. The Scottish Government provided all relevant evidence to the inquiry, which is being considered by Lord Brodie in advance of his final report and recommendations later this year. It would be inappropriate to comment further at this stage. However, I note it's a matter of parliamentary record that Ms Robertson already responded via written correspondence to Jackie Bailey as a member of the Health and Sport Committee on this matter on the 24th of February 2015, and I refer Ms Bailey to the parliamentary record.
Jackie Bailey.
Presiding Officer, in light of the Vale of Leven Hospital inquiry chaired by Lord Maclean, I asked Shona Robertson at the Health and Sport Committee on the 24th of February 2015 whether an independent audit of this new hospital had in fact been carried out. And after some pressing, she said, and I quote, "If it has not taken place, it will. We will check that." A week later, and Shona Robertson did a complete U-turn. The result? No independent audit of the hospital took place before it opened its doors to staff and patients. So does the Cabinet Secretary understand that this failure to carry out an expert independent investigation actually cost lives?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I have set out the matters that are before us are the subject of an independent judge-led public inquiry. It's important that that inquiry is allowed to carry out its business without interference from any politician and does so with the full evidence before it. The Scottish Government has provided all relevant material that has been asked of us by Lord Brodie's inquiry, and we intend to continue that cooperative approach and to resolve to respond to the recommendations when that inquiry concludes.
Jackie Bailey.
Presiding Officer, the Cabinet Secretary did everything but answer my question, and frankly I find the response extraordinary because the evidence is there. It's there in black and white. There is no getting away from the fact that people died as a result of this government's incompetence. We have senior government ministers who chose not to have this new hospital inspected with deadly consequences. Shona Robertson told the committee, the new hospital's facilities are second to none and state-of-the-art, and all the processes and procedures will be tested before staff and patients migrate to the site from April onwards. Given what we know now, does the Cabinet Secretary agree that she did not tell the truth and the government stand accused now of criminal negligence?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, Jackie Bailey knows full well that while inquiries are ongoing, it would be completely inappropriate for Scottish ministers to intervene or to comment on those live inquiries that are ongoing. She also knows that it's a matter of public record from evidence led at the inquiry that information was withheld from government by NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. So I think it's important that, knowing the evidence is before the inquiry, that they are allowed to take their deliberations free from political interference. That is the tenor of a public inquiry, as it should be, and that we will obviously take the recommendations of that inquiry seriously. And at the centre of all of this are the families who my heart goes out to and who should be, above all else, at the forefront of our considerations. That's why we instigated this independent judge-led public inquiry, so that their questions could be answered. And I believe that in the evidence that's being led through the public inquiry, we're getting to the truth of the matter.
Rona Mackay.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Cabinet Secretary is absolutely right that patients and their families are at the heart of this inquiry. I pay tribute to him and to the whistleblowers who have campaigned tirelessly. The Cabinet Secretary will know this Parliament enshrined in legislation the independence of inquiries through the Inquiries Act 2005, and it's vital that members in this chamber remember that. So can the Cabinet Secretary, for the benefit of the chamber, again outline the importance of ensuring Lord Brodie, as chair of the inquiry, has the space to consider all of the evidence and get to the truth for families and patients?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, Rona Mackay is absolutely right. The Inquiries Act passed by this Parliament put in place a range of powers available to any established public inquiry. These wide-ranging powers, including powers to compel witnesses and the production of all relevant information, are extensive and enshrine the independence of the public inquiry. That ensures that any inquiry is protected from any undue influence. So it is right that we allowed Lord Brodie the time and space to deliberate fully on the evidence before the inquiry, and we look forward to responding to those findings in due course.
Brian Whittle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The continued obfuscation of the facts by this government are leaving patient NHS staff and the public's confidence at an all-time low in the management of the NHS. Does the Cabinet Secretary not realise that to rebuild that trust, it's crucial that the Scottish Government and NH boards are transparent and honest with the public? This has been an issue in this place since I first arrived here, and the Scottish Government have to need to learn that lesson. So when will the Scottish Government and the Cabinet Secretary stop hiding behind endless inquiries and face up to the fact that there is a real culture problem in NHS management?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I think we would all, I hope we would all, agree that the independence of our public inquiries must be protected from any influence of politicians. So I respect that. This isn't about hiding behind an inquiry. It is about allowing the inquiry to do its business free from political interference. We established the public inquiry because we wanted to ensure that the families at the centre of this are given the answers to the questions that they legitimately have raised. The Lord Brodie has before him the opportunity to call witnesses and to garner evidence. We have fully cooperated with that. We have been fully transparent with all requests made of us and information being supplied to the public inquiry, and I think it's now important that Lord Brodie and the inquiry team are allowed the time and space to be able to come to their conclusions, which we will obviously respond to imminently.
Question number 2, Murdo Fraser.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what action it will take in response to the finding from UK Hospitality Scotland that licensed premises face on average an 86% increase in non-domestic rates as a result of the current revaluation.
Minister Ivan McKee.
While we appreciate the concerns being raised by businesses, in particular after the UK Government's choice to increase employers' national insurance contributions last year, we do not recognise the figure quoted by Murdo Fraser. Public houses, for example, are expected to see an average increase in the overall rateable value of 15% over the 3-year period at the 2026 revaluation, while hotels are expected to see a 29% increase over that 3-year period. Gross bills are set to increase by less than that due to a decrease in the basic, intermediate and higher property rates in 26-27, including properties that are eligible for 100% relief, such as small business bonus scheme relief. We estimate that net bills in 26-27 will rise by significantly less than claimed once all reliefs are taken into account. In fact, when compared to pre-COVID, the total revenue from NDR is now 6% less in real terms using CPI than it was then, despite an increase in the number of businesses.
Murdo Fraser.
Well, I thank the Minister for that response. I dare say he can engage directly with UK Hospitality Scotland and dispute their figures. They're saying the average pub in Scotland will see an increase of 36,523 over 3 years, and the average hotel £68,007 in the same period. But whatever the figures in detail might be, the fact is whatever increases there are simply not affordable, because these businesses are currently struggling with high costs and flat customer demand, and will simply see more business closures. Now, we're expecting today an announcement from the Labour government in London about a U-turn they're proposing to do, we understand, about rates relief for pubs in England. The SNP government here haven't in the past passed on Barnett consequentials from rates announcements down south. So will they do so this time, And will they make sure that pubs in Scotland are not going to lose out once more?
Minister.
Well, yeah, first of all, on the data, I mean, this data has already been published. There's an extensive amount of data was published at the time of the budget in regards to the revaluation. So by every sector, the member can and should indeed go and have a look at that data to understand what it actually tells them. And of course, we'll continue to engage with business organisations to talk about any specific concerns they want to raise. But I do draw the members' attention to the point again that the total take in terms of NDR, despite a growing business base, is now 6% less in real terms using CPI than it was pre-COVID. So we're actually taking less money in real terms from businesses through NDR than we were previously. And with regards to UK consequentials, we've already made the commitment. Anything that is announced from the UK Government with regard to additional relief for businesses, we will pass on that in full to businesses. And we've already had discussions with the NDR consultation group with the business representative organisations to discuss how that would in fact take place.
Murdo Fraser.
Well, again, I thank the Minister for his response. It may well be the overall take is down, but undoubtedly some sectors, including hospitality, are really suffering at the present time due to the increases. And at the root of this is the methodology being used in terms of the current revaluation. And these increases will come in from April. Now, unless something is done, we're going to see more businesses fold. So what is the Minister doing about engaging with the assessors around the methodology being used? And if there are issues with the methodology, will he agree not to implement the increases coming as a result of the current revaluation until that methodology issue is resolved?
Minister.
To the member, the average increase over a 3-year period for pubs is 15%, and the reliefs that are in place, £320 million over the 3-year period for the transition reliefs in our relief package, estimated for next year of £864 million, obviously make a significant impact on the bills actually paid by businesses. Now, we appreciate that some businesses are in a difficult situation, but as I say, that is why those significant relief packages are in place to support them with that. With regards to the valuation methodology, the member again should already know that BG Gill has already started to conduct the independent review, as requested by the business community, of the valuation methodology for licensed premises. That work is ongoing. It will report later this year, and based on that work, as requested by the business community, we will review that in terms of the findings of the review.
Jamie Green.
Thank you. The tourism, hospitality and particularly self-catering businesses have been absolutely clear with us as MSPs that they believe that the methodology behind these revaluations has really hit some sectors hard. They're not looking at averages, they're looking at some of the massive spikes that some sectors are facing. And they've been clear that I think some businesses will go bust as a result of that. And I don't think that's something that any of us want. So surely the cost of doing something will far outweigh the cost of doing nothing on this issue. Whilst I believe that the best course of action would be a complete postponement of these new rates for a year to give these businesses some breathing space, if that cannot happen, will the Minister at least agree to continue to work with me as part of our budget negotiations to ensure that we can put as much support back into these much-needed businesses, because none of us want to see any business close simply as a result of business revaluation rates going up?
Minister. The member makes an absolutely valid point. The self-catering sector has seen an 88% increase over that period, which is clearly significant with that average increase. Clearly, not all businesses will pay that, or far from it, given the relief package that is in place. But there has been a change in the methodology used by the assessors with regard to that specific sector. I have met extensively with the sector. I have met with the assessors to discuss this, and we're going to continue to engage with that to take into account the points that the member has raised.
Bill Kidd.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government's Small Business Bonus Scheme and the Business Growth Accelerator reliefs are both the most generous of their kind in the UK. Can the Minister say any more on the total support available across revaluation in retail, hospitality and leisure businesses in Scotland, please?
Minister.
The Scottish Budget for next year reduces the basic, intermediate and higher property rates, ensuring the lowest basic property rate since 2018-19 and supports a package of reliefs worth an estimated £864 million in 26-27. It offers more than £320 million of support through transitional relief schemes and retail, hospitality and leisure relief over the next 3 years, and we estimate over 100,000 properties will remain eligible for our small business bonus scheme, which will remain the most generous of its kind in the UK. We'll continue to offer the most generous relief package for renewable energy generation in the UK, and unique reliefs like day nursery relief and our growth business accelerator and fresh start reliefs will also remain the most generous in the UK.
Thank you. Question number 3, Katie Clark.
To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the Scottish Information Commissioner taking legal action against it in relation to missing deadlines to produce documents regarding James Hamilton's investigation into alleged breaches of the Ministerial Code.
Minister Graham Day.
The First Minister has made clear that the Scottish Government will comply with the Commissioner's decision on this case as soon as possible. Court orders make it clear that those who complained in relation to allegations of sexual assault must have their identities protected. We cannot release information which would breach those court orders and amount to a contempt of court. Accelerated work, and I stress accelerated work, is underway to consider each document for release. The assessment is complex given the need to avoid jigsaw identification.
Katie Clark.
The Freedom of Information request was made in October 2024, and following both a review and investigation, the Information Commissioner ruled that the Scottish Government had wrongfully withheld information and that this information should be released by 15th January. Ministers failed to comply with the 15th January deadline and then failed to comply with another deadline on 22nd January, only notifying the Information Commissioner of this decision just minutes before the deadline passed. The Information Commissioner is clear that he is not asking the Scottish Government to break the law, but to comply with it. Does the Minister believe that the Scottish Government's actions so far have been in compliance with Freedom of Information law?
Minister.
Officer, the Scottish Government has a responsibility to act responsibly here, and I recognise the point that Katie Clark has made, but I would draw our attention to the fact that Scottish Government officials wrote to the Commissioner on both the 16th of January and on the 22nd, confirming that the Scottish Government will comply with this decision as soon as it's practically possible. But I'm sure Katie Clark would understand the need to look very carefully at the information that's released for the reasons that she's very well aware.
Katie Clark.
The Information Commissioner has never before reported a public authority to the Court of Session for non-compliance, which means that the legal action now being taken against the Scottish Government is unprecedented. He is also clear that if there is a jigsaw identification issue, ministers have the opportunity to make that case. Have the Scottish Government made that case? Have they responded to the applicant to explain the position? And can the Minister provide Parliament with a timetable, a date, when this information will be published?
Minister.
So I would be reluctant to provide a date, because if that date slipped by a day, I'm sure we would be criticised for it. What I genuinely offer the reassurance to Katie Clark is that this is being worked on at pace. I hope she would also accept that there is a real need here to be extremely careful to ensure that the information, and it will be released, does not inadvertently provide jigsaw identification of any of the individuals. And I'm sure that if the Government was to create a contempt of court, it would be criticised by members for having done that. So I hope members, reasonable-minded members, will recognise the need here to exercise care in fulfilling the commitment we have given to release the information.
Thank you. I have several members who've pressed. Concise questions and responses appreciated. Liam Kerr.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government has previously acknowledged using AI to answer FOI requests from the Scottish Conservatives. Minister, did using AI filtering in this case have any impact whatsoever on the Government's assessment of and/or release of these documents?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, I have to be honest, I'm not fully understanding the question that the member is asking, because it's a simple, straightforward case here. We have committed to release the information. We are undertaking a detailed process to ensure that we do not commit contempt of court. I hear that the member speaking from a sedentary position, Presiding Officer. I can't make out what he's saying. I offer the assurance, as I've done to Katie Clark, that the Government is working at pace to provide the release of the information whilst acting responsibly.
Fergus Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. When Alex Salmond defeated the Scottish Government in his court case, the judge in the case, Lord Pentland, said that the Government was tainted with apparent bias. The Dean of the Faculty, Roddy Dunlop, when advised the Government, said, thankfully, an affidavit by a senior civil servant was not lodged. And Leslie Evans, the then Permanent Secretary, said on the day after the verdict, the battle may be lost, but not the war. The uncontrovertible inference, Presiding Officer, is surely that, to paraphrase Shakespeare, there is something rotten in the state of Scotland. Will the Minister consult the Permanent Secretary to get fresh advice with a view to opening up the books and making public all the redacted and withheld documents that occurred during that period?
Presiding Officer, I don't in any way accept Fergus Ewing's characterisation of this, and we are content with the advice we've received.
Douglas Ross.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Civil servants are impartial of the Scottish Government. As has already been said today, this is an unprecedented move for the Information Commissioner to defer to the Court of Session. Therefore, do apparently impartial civil servants support the Government delaying the release of this information? If not, why are Government ministers going against them? And if they do, does the Minister accept that puts into question their impartiality? And if he will not provide a specific date, will he at least give an assurance to this chamber that the information will be released ahead of the Scottish Parliament election purdah period, so this Parliament can receive it before the election?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, the intention is to release that information as soon as is practical to do. On the point about, to Douglas Ross's central point, he appears to suggest, and I refute this absolutely, that this is a deliberate act to delay the release of this information. I could not have been clearer. That is not what is happening here. But surely even Mr Ross would accept that we have a responsibility to the individuals captured by the contempt of court protections to ensure that we act responsibly and we carry out due diligence to ensure that in complying with the Commissioner's instruction, we do not inadvertently create another problem, particularly for those individuals.
And Martin Whitfield.
I'm very grateful, Presiding Officer. The Minister has talked about it not being a deliberate act, but it must be a deliberate act because you're withholding the information while you scrutinise it. The Government seems to be caught between risk of a contempt of court and a statute. What advice was given as to which legal obligation they were not going to comply with?
Minister.
It's not about not complying with a legal obligation. It is about... Look, I don't expect to have sympathy in the chamber, but the Government is between a rock and a hard place on this. On the one hand, the Commissioner is threatening contempt of court because we're not complying in the time scale that he would like. On the other, if we rush to do this and we make an error, then we would fall foul of contempt of court in another regard through the courts. So it is not a deliberate act to delay issue this because we intend to issue it. It is simply to take the appropriate time to ensure that we comply with the ruling of the Commissioner, but we do so in a way that does not create difficulties for the individuals I've referenced.
Thank you. That concludes topical questions.